What happens when two men who once nearly clashed in the Oval Office are forced to sit at the same table again, this time with the shadow of Vladimir Putin hanging over the room? The world held its breath as Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky met face to face, a meeting that could either push Ukraine closer to survival or leave it trapped in endless uncertainty. And while the headlines may suggest calm, the truth is much more complicated. The outcome was neither disastrous nor truly hopeful. It was something in between, a fragile middle ground that hides far more than it reveals. This wasn't a confrontation, it wasn't a breakthrough, it was, at best, an uneasy pause in a war that refuses to stop burning. But what actually unfolded inside that room is a story full of contradictions, subtle signals, and looming dangers that the world cannot afford to ignore. Observers couldn't shake the sense of déjà vu. The last time Trump and Zelensky sat together, tensions ran high, and the meeting nearly spiraled into a clash of personalities. This time, however, the atmosphere was restrained. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. Figures such as J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Zelensky's close aide Andriy Yermak, and even a former Ukrainian defense minister joined the talks, which revolved heavily around one recurring issue: prisoner exchanges. Yet even on that humanitarian front, progress was minimal. Ukraine pushed for tangible agreements, but the talks circled endlessly. The reason was clear. Donald Trump remains convinced that Vladimir Putin is genuinely interested in making peace. For Ukraine, this belief is not only naive, but dangerous. At one point, Trump floated the idea of bringing Putin, Zelensky, and himself together in a grand summit. On the surface, such an idea sounds bold, but would Putin ever agree? The reality is brutal. Putin does not see Zelensky as a head of state. In his eyes, Ukraine is not a sovereign country, but a province under Russian control. To sit as an equal beside Zelensky would be, in Putin's worldview, a humiliation. That makes Trump's suggestion less a breakthrough and more a fantasy. Even Trump seemed half-hearted, saying he didn't really want to participate but would attend if asked. This wavering tone revealed more than he intended. Trump wants a win, but only if it comes easily. If he cannot emerge victorious, history shows he prefers to walk away. In the middle of this political theater, an unexpected figure emerged: Melania Trump. Her letter to Vladimir Putin, urging the release of abducted Ukrainian children, was mentioned during the talks. Zelensky used the moment to deliver a letter from his wife, Olena Zelenska, to Melania. Trump accepted it, acknowledging that it wasn't meant for him, but for his wife. What makes this important is not the letter itself. Putin is unlikely to care. What matters is the influence Melania may hold over her husband. Reports suggest she frequently reminds Trump that his supposed positive talks with Putin achieve nothing, pointing out that Russian missiles continue to strike Ukrainian cities regardless. If true, her voice could become one of the few that pulls Trump away from blind trust in Moscow. One of the most striking points in the talks came when Trump repeated Putin's argument: don't just push for a ceasefire. Let's solve the roots of the conflict. The implication was clear. Russia wants time, space, and legitimacy for its ongoing invasion. European leaders and Zelensky rejected this outright. For them, talk of grand solutions while Russian troops advance is unacceptable. They insisted on a ceasefire first, halting the bloodshed before any deeper negotiations can begin. But here's where the danger lies. Trump appeared willing to lean toward Putin's framing even as others pushed back. His words carried the undertone of someone eager to end the issue quickly, even if it meant sacrificing Ukraine's position. That left Kyiv and its European allies with the sense that they were speaking at a birthday party toast rather than a serious negotiation about life and death. The conference also turned to the question of security guarantees. NATO's Article 5 was mentioned as a model, but those who understand the fine print know the truth. Article 5 does not automatically mean armies march to Ukraine's defense. It merely requires allies to take action as they see necessary, which could mean anything from military aid to little more than symbolic gestures. For Zelensky, this wasn't enough. He reminded the room that Ukraine's strongest guarantee is its own armed forces. Allies may talk, but only weapons and soldiers on the battlefield prevent collapse. And so long as Ukraine relies on slow-moving European bureaucracies or Trump's transactional approach, its survival hangs in the balance. Trump signaled that Washington would not directly arm Ukraine in the same way as previous administrations. Instead, the plan is for the U.S. to sell weapons to European countries, who in turn support Kyiv. On paper, this maintains the flow of weapons. In practice, it creates bottlenecks, delays, and reduced capability for Ukraine. The uncomfortable truth is that Europe cannot match the scale of American support on its own. Worse, European nations still send more money to Moscow through energy purchases than they send to Kyiv in military aid. The imbalance is glaring, and Ukraine is left paying the highest price. Throughout the meeting, Trump repeated a familiar refrain: "We'll see in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for sanctions to work. 2 weeks for Putin to make a decision. 2 weeks for peace." But anyone who has followed this war knows those 2 weeks stretch into months, even years, while the fighting only intensifies. For Ukraine, hearing Trump speak in vague timelines was a chilling reminder that promises mean little without action. Perhaps the most revealing moment came when Trump admitted that he thought the war would be easy to solve. This confession showed how severely he underestimated both the resilience of Ukraine and the brutality of Russia's campaign. Realizing the problem is not easily fixed, Trump's interest may already be fading. And for Trump, a fight that cannot be won is a fight not worth continuing. On the positive side, Trump confirmed that U.S. weapons sales to Europe will continue. While not direct aid, this at least ensures some flow of military support reaches Ukraine. But again, it is not nearly enough to match the scale of the war. Even French President Emmanuel Macron warned that Ukraine will need military backing not just today, but for decades. He clearly sees the war as long-term, unlike Trump, who still toys with quick fixes. Behind all of this diplomacy, Russia is preparing for escalation. While Trump was speaking of peace, Moscow quietly stockpiled thousands of Shahed drones. The brief lull in strikes was not goodwill, it was preparation. Now, Ukrainian officials warn of renewed massive assaults on energy infrastructure and civilian targets. The message is clear: Putin never intended to pause, he only sharpened his blade. Perhaps most unsettling was the revelation that Trump planned to call Putin after the meeting. Some suggest he already has. This raises the question: whose interests is Trump prioritizing? Is he acting as a mediator, or is he becoming a messenger between Moscow and Kyiv? For Ukraine, this uncertainty is alarming. Despite all the contradictions, one thing remained crystal clear. Zelensky once again declared that Ukraine will not surrender its land. No deal that hands territory to Russia will ever be accepted. Ukraine will fight on, with or without full American support. European allies pledged to keep sending aid, though the scale is limited. And while Trump's words left many unsettled, the overall outcome showed that Ukraine still has partners, even if those partners disagree on the path forward. So what was achieved? Not much. Not enough. The meeting was not catastrophic, but it was far from decisive. It showed cracks in Western unity, Trump's wavering commitment, and Putin's shadow looming over every decision. Yet it also highlighted Ukraine's unshakable stance, Europe's slow but real support, and even the surprising possibility that Melania Trump could influence her husband's perspective in ways no politician can. The war continues. Russia prepares for escalation. Ukraine braces for survival. And the world watches, caught between hope and fear, as leaders debate while soldiers bleed. The outcome of this meeting was not really bad, but it was far from perfect. And in a war like this, far from perfect is never enough.